All right, so tell us about Biscuit Belly and what makes your brand so much different.
Yeah, so Biscuit Belly is a fast casual breakfast brunch brand that we started in 2019 after a couple of other, developments in the entrepreneurial space and businesses that we started up from scratch. And being from Georgia, we really wanted to do something in the biscuit world. I think it's part of every piece of the food pyramid in the South, as I'm sure you know about. But yeah, opened the first one in 2019. You order at the counter, grab a number, grab a seat. It's very full service after that. So we're running the food to you. We're bussing your tables. We're running the drinks. We have brunch based craft cocktails. We have an espresso program. It's a very lively, fun, bright atmosphere, loud, kind of upbeat music. So we're trying to do something a little different in the breakfast world, not just your typical bacon, eggs, and pancakes, and have really been very intentional in what we've done in the branding and the atmosphere and the menu to be a little bit more unique and what I would say is a rather sometimes boring, segment. So that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, now I understand you and your wife Lauren aren't exactly restaurateurs in a past life. So, would you share with us what exactly did you guys do, and how in the world did this thing come to fruition after your former career?
Yes, so we are both pharmacists by training. We're still hitting the dopamine receptors in the brain, right? Now it's just butter, sugar, and salt.
There you
But
go.
yeah, we graduated from University of Georgia. We both moved up to Louisville, Kentucky, which is where we started Biscuit Belly. And I got a job actually at a local pharmacy school. And we got the entrepreneurial itch around 2011.
Okay.
Opened up a couple of those painting and drinking places that were pretty popular back in the day, where a teacher is standing up in front of the class and you're all painting the same picture and usually the picture gets better or your interpretation of the painting gets better throughout the night as you continue to drink wine. So we opened up two of those. They went over gangbusters. We were selling a lot of wine, obviously, because that's a big piece of that business model. And, we looked around the Louisville landscape and it's all, as you can imagine, bourbon and craft beer. And there wasn't
Sure.
really a wine focused bar or restaurant. And so we're like, huh, okay, well there's a gap in the restaurant or bar world here in Louisville. So like let's do our own. Let's fill this gap. And that was in 2014. We opened up our own concept. We hired an executive chef, a sommelier in training. We had 60 wines by the glass. It was like a small plate, it's like a Southern influenced small plate restaurant, had
Nice.
about 70 seats. We often kid that the very first time we worked in a restaurant was the night we opened our own, just because we had zero experience in the restaurant world. So that was called Luvino, Louvino.
Okay.
And that went over very, very well. Was great. And we ended up opening five of those locations over three different states. So we had two in Indiana, two in Louisville, and then one in Cincinnati. And so we took this concept from, my head and grew it to 5 units in three states. We ended up selling that in 2020. And the bad part of 2020, not before, everyone had to stay in their home for weeks on end, but
Right.
we sold that because we had just opened Biscuit Belly and we saw the potential that had and how well it was doing. And we were like, all right, well, Luvino basically we're running almost five different concepts because every wine list is different. Every chef had their own menu.
Hmm.
So it was like running five different things, not scalable. We thought that Biscuit Belly was definitely a more scalable model. And that was something I always had a, I wanted to do is to take something, past those 5 units and really, really grow it out,
Right.
either regionally or nationally. So here we are, and we've learned a lot. We've made a lot of changes just I wouldn't say changes, but maybe we've just a lot of refinements along the way
Sure.
in the Biscuit Belly model. So, and we just opened up location number 14, and we're about to sign a new franchise deal, potentially two more deals here in the next, maybe one this week, or within the next couple of weeks. So we hope to be at about 20 or so by the end of next year, 20 open locations. And, we'll see where it takes us.
Congrats. That's incredible. All right. Who came up with the name Biscuit Belly?
Well, we had a lot of different names. We probably had 80 different names that I just kept on my phone on the notes section. And I wanted it to be playful and fun. Actually, I think the person that came up with it was our previous employee who actually started with us at the painting and drinking place, who then became our marketing director at the wine bar. I think she came up with it, but we were trying to play on, a lot of people know what like a muffin top is, right? Like if you got a little bit of a belly and your pants are too tight, your stomach kind of feels, it spills over like the top of a muffin. So we're trying to do a play on that, but with biscuits in mind instead of muffins. So you eat a couple too many biscuits, and that's you feel a little heavy.
We've all had Biscuit Belly. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So anyway, we had a lot of different names, and ultimately we met with a branding agency here locally because we really wanted to do this the right way from the beginning, because we felt like it could have legs. And so I think we presented maybe 8 of our favorite names, and then they picked, I think, 3 or 4 of those that they felt were, I don't know, the best to move forward. They scratched things off like the Risky Biscuit, like that may not be a good restaurant name, So yeah. And then we had 2 finalists, and then we said, look, whichever logo we like the most, that's the one we'll go with. And it's funny because one of the names was Crumbles. And I'm glad we didn't choose that, because we probably would have gotten sued by the cookie company, because there's a lot of lawsuits right now in that arena. But I think it would have been too close and probably caused some confusion.
But anyway, and nobody wants their biscuit crumbling up either.
Exactly. Like it kind of has a negative connotation too. So I'm glad we didn't choose that. But yeah, so we went with Biscuit Belly, and we got the color palette picked out and the logo made, and it was pretty an interesting process that I'd never been through to do it in a very organized fashion of coming up with a ground up.
I love it. I do. I enjoy hearing why people come up with the names that they do, and the feeling they want to get behind it. And there's a lot that goes into it. And it's like, once you name your kid, that's it. That's the child's name. That's it for life. So you got to do it right. You got to take the time.
Yeah, I agreed. And since it was something that we felt we could, or the goal was to scale it up, we wanted something that, was a little cheeky and it was bright and fun, which is not always what you see in a breakfast restaurant, which is kind of surprising to me, because that's supposed to be like, it's the morning time. You're waking up and you have your coffee or a cocktail, and, versus like a darker dinner restaurant. So, I'm surprised. Something like that.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fumey, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.